Hi there! Welcome to our last card in our Amazing Life February class series. So again, we'll be using this stamp set, and we'll be using the Good Luck and the little clover today. And we'll be using our stitch framelits again. And the ones we'll be using today are these ones from this side and the two innermost ones from the center there. Okay, so let's get started. Now the first thing we're going to be doing today is a bit of a watercolor wash. So I'm going to bring in a block here. Now you can watercolor directly to your cardstock if you like. I like to do it on a block sometimes just to get a slightly more natural sort of feeling for the watercolor. It also means that I can predict exactly how my pictures are going to look, or how my watercoloring is going to look, before I actually commit it to the paper. The first thing I'm going to do here is just really wet up my block, and then I'm going to use some re-inkers, and I'm just going to put them on a separate block here so that I can add the colour as I want over on this one, rather than adding it directly to it and having some intense sections. If you don't have any re-inkers, what you can do is grab your ink pad and then just press it onto clear block, and that'll give you colour on there that you can actually use to do it. So show you wet up then with a re-inker, and we can just bring it over here. So today I'm using Lemon Lime Twist, Bermuda Bay and Pacific Point. In fact, the Pacific Point and the Lemon Lime Twist together actually make a colour very much like the Bermuda Bay. So I probably didn't need to actually use that one, but so I'm just going to bring it over here. Now the more colour you put, more intense, the more intense your look is going to be in your main one. So you see in this other one I've done it quite heavily. Today we might just do it a bit lighter. And so with less colour here, it's going to produce a much more subtle pastel kind of look. Some green here. So you probably can't tell, but I'm actually just squeezing my aqua painter as I go, just to keep adding more and more water, so they don't shrink back too much everywhere. I don't want them to mix too much in there. So I think that's going to be pretty good. A bit more colour down here because it seems to be washing away. Yep. Now I've got lots of colour. Alright, and then I'm just going to take my card and place it on top. Yep, splat it out a bit there. Now if you want to make sure you don't get inky hands when you do this, just pop a piece of printer paper or scrap paper over the top, and when you rub your hands around, it'll make it all over you. I'm always inky, so see, we just do that, and we're going to lift it up, and you can see it's all gone in. If you still wanted to fill in some of these gaps a bit more, if you want wide areas, you can come over with your aqua painter a bit more colour. Just fill them in, make them a lighter sort of section, and that's pretty much it. So then we just set that aside to dry. So obviously we can't stamp on wet card. This one. Right, that one too. Looks like I'm having an extremely messy day today. Right, so now by the power of pre-recording, I'll bring you in one I've done before. And you can see I've just cut those rectangular stitch shapes out, like I said. I'm going to just take these out. Yep, I'm still slightly attached. I recommend when you're cutting dies like this, particularly really square rectangular dies, when you go through your big shot, try and go at an angle. You'll find it's a lot less pressure on your plates and you will get better cuts than if you try and go straight through. Alright, so these two pieces here we're not going to use today, so you can save them for another project, or if you don't like to use this one, you could actually swap one of the others in instead. Down here. Yep, I'm not using that one. These 3 pieces we're going to use. Now I'm just going to grab some memento. And a little clover. And I'm just going to stamp it around and use some of this extra that we haven't used here. Just anywhere. Now I just did 3, you could do more if you wanted to. You usually find that odd numbers create a better balance in your card. And then we're just going to fussy cut them out, but to save you the boringness of that, I'm going to pause and come back in one moment. Okay, so we're back. Got these here, and now I'm just going around, so you can see this. Get the camera to focus. Oh, that's not how we get the camera to focus. There we go. Yeah, so I'm just going around here, around this edge, and just removing that white line. I'm just using a Stampin' Right marker in black, and this is the only marker that actually comes on its own, not in a kit, and you'll find it on page 202 or 184 of the annual catalogue. And why I like to use our one to do this is some other brands will leave a shininess with the black and it's really obvious that you've done it. Our one doesn't. And you can just see that by doing that, it makes it more finished. That white line's not showing there. It doesn't make it look obvious that you've cut it out. And you can, if you've cut in just a little bit too far, you can just bring it in there as well and just tidy up anything. There we are. Right, now we are on to assembling. And so we've got a standard base, which is our A5, cut in half, folded in half. Don't cut it, it won't be our card. Then our next layer is our 10.5 by 14.8. Next layer is 9.5. Sorry, that was a 10 by 14.3. This one is 9.5 by 13.8. And I should have stuck that down so you couldn't see that. Whoops, that was a bit of a mistake. It's a good time for me to lose all my erasers as well. It's okay. You can always fix it up later. There we go. There we go. Do you hate me stick things on upside down? Alright. Now, let's work these out. So we have our biggest one, goes about there. the next size down, just goes underneath of it. Whoop. If I'm not butterfingers. The last one goes over the top, underneath the bottom layer, and then back over again. So they're not as entwined as they look like. Actually, before we do that, I better stamp this, but no. Now this is a really tight fit. If you're not confident in doing it, I'd recommend using a stamp positioner like the Stamparatus, just so you can line it right up before you're actually stamping. Okay, and then this one comes in and just slides underneath those last two. Wiggle that up, wiggle that down. That's pretty much it. So what I'm going to do is just flip the whole thing over. Add my glue, and then we'll put it back down all as one piece. Yep. So I want to go at a bit of an angle. Now, because it is Tombow, you do have a little bit of play with the glue in your time. So I'm just kind of move the parts out where I want them. And then as I'm happy with them, I'm just going to push them down. Another way to do this would be to let your Tombow dry while it's still upside down. And then it actually becomes a tacky glue, so you can sort of tack it into place and then gradually lift the pieces one at a time to add a more permanent wet glue. So that's that. These guys are just stuck straight down. You could use the dimensionals if you wanted. I'm going to put this one up here. There we go, there you have it. Just before I go, I'm just going to show you that other piece that we made. You see now that it's dry how much more vibrant and lighter the colours are. So just remember that when you are doing this, that it will look darker, and this Granny Apple Green especially won't look as vibrant while it's wet, but once it dries, a lot of that really bright colour will come back out. And that's the same for when you're stamping as well. You'll often notice that when you stamp, it looks much darker than when you've got your finished product, but it will settle. You can also turn it over if you find that you've gone a bit dark and you don't want to use this side. You can flip it over and use this side to get a more pastel sort of look to your card. Alright, thank you for joining me today. That's the end of our February series. Thanks guys, bye!